Sporting events and inside at the theater. They're ready. And some of the best players, we'll hear from them very early. Peyton Manning. Will he go first to the Colts? Or will it be Ryan Leaf that goes first to the Colts or second to the Chargers? Charles Woodson, the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll hear from him very early. And the running back that everybody covets, Penn State's Curtis Enis. It's the 63rd annual selection meeting of the National Football League. I look forward every year to just saying that. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, and welcome inside here to the theater, along with my usual compatriots, Mel Kiper and Joe Theismann. We have Tom Jackson up on the demo set. We're everywhere. Chris Fowler and our college gang up in Connecticut. We are all over the country. And to steal from Chuck Berry's sweet little 16, we're really rocking in Boston and Miami, FLA. We're up the coast in Jacksonville and Cincinnati, IA. All right, I'll stop now, which is too good to pass up. The first pick in Indianapolis, a later pick in Green Bay. We're live in the heart of Texas and out in the desert in Arizona. And with the most intriguing player early on in West Virginia with Marshall's wide receiver Randy Moss. We'll video teleconference into the Jets and Giants and Baltimore. And Carolina and Tampa Bay and New Orleans and Kansas City and St. Louis in the Windy City in Minnesota, the champion Broncos and San Francisco. Frankly, we're going to run up a hell of a phone bill. Radio, wall to wall, ESPN Radio, noon to 6, ESPN.com, and that's not it. And welcome back to New York. We are eagerly anticipating the start of what may go down in history when we look back 10 years from now as the high watermark draft of the entire decade of the 90s. The Indianapolis Colts have been, which quarterback do they go with? Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf. Our Mark Malone is out in Indianapolis. Let's get the last word before it's official. Mark?
Well, the last word is that Bill Polian and Jim Moore of this organization, Boomer, they're not making it public in terms of who they've decided on. They spent many hours last night, very late, trying to separate these two quarterbacks. Bill Polian had told me that earlier in the day, they had them about a tenth of a point apart. They were very, very close. They spent most of the night separating those two. And I had probably one of the most interesting philosophical discussions about quarterbacks with Polian that I've had in a long time. For about an hour last night, we discussed the pros and cons of these two guys. First of all, Polian says that he's not enamored necessarily with big, strong guys, although both of these quarterbacks are 6'5". Peyton Manning, it seems to me, is the guy that has the most experience, and that ultimately is going to be, I think, the difference in this draft. He played the extra year, certainly as he came back, 6'5", 230. He's got more game time experience. He prepares well. Again, the nickname the caveman that he's been tagged with by his teammates because he watches so much film. And when you look at all the intangibles that Bill Polian really researches and looks at in a quarterback, especially with the track record this franchise has had over the last decade or two in terms of quarterbacks, they need to make the right choice. He's not saying, Boomer, but I can tell you this. In my gut, if I was playing poker with him, I think it's going to be Peyton Manning.
I think if we had to go out on a limb, that would be our guess. But you know what? They earned this 4 months of keeping everybody in suspense. Let them keep it for another 15 minutes. Let's go quickly to Mel Kiper, and obviously Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, who guys are going to talk about at length, and hopefully at length for the next 12, 14 years. Let's look at overall value. How would you rank the board specifically on the best players available?
I think when you look at it, Chris, Andre Wadsworth could be the next Bruce Smith. Arizona trades down, still gets the best player on my board. Charles Woodson, dynamic, pure cornerback. Then the two quarterbacks, the cerebral quarterback in Manning, the gunslinger in Leaf. Keith Brooking, a versatile kid, can play middle linebacker, can play outside linebacker, and of course Curtis Enis, very well-rounded running back, outstanding pass receiver out of the backfield. Then there's a drop-off. After those top four, the grades slip a little bit. Then you pick it up again with Takeo Spikes, an outstanding middle linebacker. A couple players to watch. Kyle Turley, because of his versatility, can play guard or tackle, and Grant Wistrom has definitely moved up into that top 10 because of his very consistent motor.
The most intriguing story of the day will be the wide receiver for Marshall, Randy Moss, who I did not see right there. What happens with him?
Well, the off-the-field concerns certainly are there. Not on the field. Of course, at Marshall, dominated the Mid-American Conference. Those 44 touchdowns really stick out. He was a man among boys when you talk about how he dominated cornerbacks in the MAC. But those off-the-field concerns, and really as a wide receiver, he still has to develop his skills, getting off press coverage, route running.
But for Pro Bowl talent, he may be a man among boys, as you say. Well, we're about ready to tee it off. And on the first tee, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the National Football League's 1998 player draft. We'll start with the Indianapolis Colts having the first selection. The Colts are now on the board.
So while the Colts, quote, think it over, Joe, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, both have potential to be stars for a long, long time. Do you have a preference?
Actually, I don't necessarily have a preference because both bring a lot to the table. These are both very good athletes. They're both very big, young football players. When you take a look at the opportunities that they've had to play, you have to take a look at the experience that Peyton Manning has. He's played a lot longer. As a matter of fact, Ryan Leaf played 2 years in high school, 2 years in college. Peyton Manning played all 4 years in college, so he's played more just in college. Leadership, because Manning has played more, he has that ability, but Ryan Leaf jumped up a lot in his senior year. Maturity, again, because Manning has played so much football, he gets the edge there. Physical skills, Ryan Leaf brings just a ton of natural talent. And the conversation that you have with the personnel people and the coaches regarding these young men is the upside in Ryan Leaf is terrific. What you get from Peyton Manning right now is a wonderful, polished athlete. Both of them bring a lot of assets to this table. I think both will fit very well with the teams that they wind up with.
Well, each owner brought jerseys of both. And by the way, whoever team that they don't go to, let's just say the Colts pick Peyton Manning, wonder how much that Ryan Leaf Colts jersey would be worth at a charity auction. In 1983, John Elway was drafted first by the Baltimore Colts. Do you remember?
Baltimore selects as the first choice in the draft quarterback John Elway of Stanford.
As I stand here right now playing baseball, I said I don't want to be a jerk or anything about it. As that we've been telling you for 3 months that I'm not going to play in Baltimore, and I know for a fact you've been offered 3 1s and a quarterback, and you turned that down. And right now you have nothing.
Of course, John Elway never took a snap for the Baltimore, then Indianapolis Colts, quarterback for the Denver Broncos, and of course will be receiving his Super Bowl ring before opening day. The Broncos, John Elway, of quarterbacks who have started 6 games or more since 1983, he's the only one. What have the Colts done since then? Jeff George, Jim Harbaugh, Pierre Trudeau, Mike Onion, Pagel, Chris Chandler, Gary Hogeboom, Paul Justin, a smattering of who they've had. 20 years ago, they drafted Burt Jones in the first round, and he worked out. But Elway never became a Colt. Art Schlichter was a first-round pick. They have a chance to undo a lot of negative history in the quarterback. I don't mean that Jim Harbaugh or Jeff George weren't good players, but maybe not to the degree of Peyton Manning, who brings special talent, starting with his release. Almost releases the ball too quick, doesn't he, Mel?
I'll tell you, when you look at Peyton Manning, his size, he's over 6'5". You look at that 230-pound frame, really an extension of your offensive coordinator. Statistics prove them out what I'm talking about in terms of his accuracy. I mean, he is on target with virtually every pass. I think very underrated arm strength. But really what sets Peyton Manning apart is this ability you see here. Check off, read defenses, and show poise under pressure, and the touch on the football. He's really a pitcher. He's not a thrower. He's really rounded off his game as a passer. And I'll tell you, the arm strength, watch him here. You know, stick it between a defender, get it in the end zone. And when you see accuracy, I think that's what I'm talking about here. On the money, he knows how to get it between defenders. And watch this. This is the improvisational skills of a guy who can think on his feet, keep his poise, make something out of nothing. And that's what Peyton Manning does on a very consistent basis. And as I said before, what I like about Peyton is he can elude the initial defender, and he has that ability to loft the ball, Joe. And that's an instinctive quality that only the great quarterbacks really possess.
You know how big this draft is. It's not very often that we see the owners of the first 2 teams.
That's right.
Jimmy Irsay is going to bring the card up for the Colts here in a few seconds. Alex and Dean Spanos are here, the ownership of the Chargers, to bring their card up with the second pick. And as we speak, Jim on cue. Very exciting moment for him and the entire Colts franchise. And the question now becomes, will the RCA Dome, a.k.a. the Big Horseshoe, will that become Peyton's place?
With the first pick in the draft, the Indianapolis Colts select quarterback, University of Tennessee, Peyton Manning.
proud moment for Peyton, his family. You saw his brothers, mom and dad, and of course Archie Manning, who excelled with a very poor team for years and years in the New Orleans Saints. The jersey's ready, and here he is, the new quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning. And I guess we must do this. Golf fans know this cheer. In Indianapolis, you can now yell, Peyton, you the Manning!
I think it's a great choice, Chris. I mean, I believe that he's going to fit in so perfectly. And really, when I had a chance to talk to the organization over the last 2 weeks, they've sort of pointed themselves towards getting ready for the Peyton Manning arrival. His athletic ability, his quickness. And Mel, you brought up something else. Remember during the college season, everybody talked about the little pitter-patter steps that he used to take. When you watched him in workouts, they were gone. He's very conscious of what needs to be done to correct his skills to make himself play at the next level. He's coachable, he's teachable, he's very smart in his approach to the game of football. You're really getting the perfect student as well as a fine, fine young man.
I know, Joe, but just a note of caution. I think we tend to expect too much from young quarterbacks in the National Football League. They're force-fed, they're scrutinized really as rookies. I think it's unfair. I think he needs to be brought along slowly. Sure, he'll be the starting quarterback on opening day more than likely, but still, you have to go through those growing pains. It's not the SEC any longer. I think too often, Joe, quarterbacks that first, second year are talked about as busts or booms, and I think it's far premature.
I don't think it is in the case of Peyton Manning. See, I get to disagree with you in the first 15 minutes of the show, which is a rarity. But I really think that in the case of Peyton Manning, you're going to see his statistics at the end of the year probably look like a 3 or a 4-year player. I think he'll be able to adjust that quickly. I really feel like this young man can adjust that quickly to the game of football. The Indianapolis Colts are going to need him. They're a football team that's not very far away. Offensively, they're in pretty good shape. Tom Moore takes over as the coordinator. Rusty Tillman takes over as the defensive coordinator for Indianapolis. Rusty will run an aggressive style of defense. They get Jeff Arad back in the middle. They're soaring up that side of the line. Offensively, good tight ends, good running backs. I think there's a lot of people around him to be able to allow him to be successful.
And he should start right away. And I think in the Bill Polian, Jim Mora era of the Indianapolis Colts, the key player for Peyton Manning will not necessarily be who he has up front. It's going to be Marshall Faulk. If a big-time running game can go with a nice, young, maturing quarterback, this will be a treat.
Yep.
Marshall becomes key to how Peyton Manning does, who is now with our Mike Tirico. Michael.
Okay, Chris, thank you. Peyton, one of your endearing qualities is that you are such a team guy, and you gave your team the credit all the time at Tennessee. Will you at least take this moment to feel proud of your accomplishment?
Well, it's an honor, Mike. There's no question about it. I'm really excited about what's ahead and just proud that the Colts put their faith in me. I'm looking forward to the challenge of getting the program going, and it's a really exciting time right now.
Everyone was playing great poker from the Colts side. Were you at all concerned that you weren't going to be their selection?
I had a pretty good idea, Mike, but I can keep a secret too. There's no question about that. But like I said, really excited. I'm going to Indianapolis today and looking forward to visiting Mr. Polian and Coach Moore. And I'm excited to go to work. I'm ready to get started right now.
Quickly, how long have you been keeping that secret?
Can't tell you that either, Mike.
We'll talk to you later. Okay. Peyton Manning, the Colts' #1 pick. He will wear his dad's old number 18. He couldn't have it at Tennessee, Chris.
All right, Mike, and congratulations, Peyton. He can keep a secret. So can the general manager of the Colts, Bill Polian, who's with our Mark Malone. Let's go out to Indianapolis right now. Mark.
Well, Chris, we said that, or I said at least this morning, I wouldn't want to play poker with Bill Polian. He has kept a secret so well coming up to this draft. You and I spoke at length last night. You still didn't really indicate to me where you'd go. Tell me, in your heart of hearts, did it take you until late last night to really come down to this decision, Bill?
No, not really. I think sometime around midday yesterday, Jim Moore and I sat down and we said, you know, what's in our hearts? We've done all the research. We've done all the measurements that you can do. And in the end, it comes down to making a very tough pick. These are two very, very fine football players. And we just felt that Peyton, because of his experience and his maturity level in the game of football, not personal maturity, but in the game of football, fit best for us in this particular situation. I'm confident that Ryan Leaf is going to go on and have an outstanding career, and I wouldn't bet against him playing in the AFC Championship game in the not-too-distant future.
Speaking of his maturity and his experience level, does that mean that this kid comes in and starts right away? He's at the top of your depth chart?
Well, we're going to start him out there, and we'll see where it goes. We're going to throw him in. Whether it's game 1 or game 4, I think is immaterial, but he's going to learn on the job, that's for sure.
Well, Bill Polian has certainly put his brand on this particular franchise with a #1 overall pick, Peyton Manning of the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, let's take it back to Boomer in New York.
All right, Mark, thank you. So Peyton becomes now the 9th quarterback to be drafted #1.